Hey YouTubers, more Rob Moffat. Guys, going to do a video on 10 inexpensive things or items person could buy to have a happier retirement. I got this idea from a guy's a channel, it's Holy Schmidt, good channel, you should check it out. He did a video recently on 10 low-cost items to have a happy retirement. And it got me to thinking, I'm retired and I'm very frugal. I'm one of the happiest retired people I know, so that would be a good video. But some of these ideas actually aren't just for retired people, they could be for anybody. And it's very specific to me. A lot of the things he mentioned were could be not necessarily things that he was using, but just things he was advocating. All these things I'm going to be talking about are things that I use and have used and recommend that lead to a happier retirement. The first one I want to talk about is one I've made videos a few times on, is my folding bicycle. I bought it like 10 years ago. Bicycles have improved my retirement life. They're very fun to use. Recently, last 10 years, the death rate for pedestrians and bicycle riders has gone way up. So you got to be very careful and ride your bike where it's safe to ride your bike. I don't want to be a nanny, but it's gotten pretty tough out there. Bikes are magical now. When you go across the intersection, cars can no longer see you. You're invisible. But bicycles have been a source of pleasure for me since I retired. Also, since I learned I could put bicycles on a bus, they've become an effective backup, practically free source of transportation. But there's one thing about bikes that nobody seems to mention that I like more than anything about bikes, is that you can fix them. When you have a car, they're just giant money pits, and as they get newer and newer, they're more and more impossible to fix, and they cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Or you can get a used bicycle on Craigslist or for Facebook Marketplace, even better, for like $50, and you can fix it with a crescent wrench and a screwdriver. It gives you such a sense of empowerment and enjoyment to be able to have a problem with a bicycle and just sit down and fix it for a few dollars. And even if you don't know how, you can go online and find information on how just about anybody can fix just about anything on a regular, normal bicycle. The accomplishment you get, the feeling of satisfaction you get is very high. Um, Also, the fact that no matter what happens, you have an effective means of transportation. And it's fun when cars aren't trying to run you over. So yeah, one of the things that kind of surprised me was how much I enjoy bicycles. I have 4 of them in the house. My nephews better come soon and get 2 of them, or I'm going to look like a lunatic. But more than I do already. The second item, since I retired, I started cooking a lot more. And the cooking gadgets are such a source of pleasure. Cooking, cooking for yourself or for your loved ones is one of the last pure forms of joy there is. It's I don't know how many times you go to a restaurant, you're not happy with the meal, or you feel sick later, or the food wasn't that good, or it was very expensive, or you just didn't have an optimum experience where you could spend a third of the money at home and have a really good meal. And even if you don't cook it as well, you'll learn something about how to cook later on. You can apply it to the next time. This is my latest cooking gadget. Cost $20. I never ever bought a food processor before. I have a knife. Why do I need a food processor? Also, they're big. I needed to make something, creamed carrots or something, I don't know. And I bought a tiny one because it has almost no footprint on the little tiny space I have to work with. And it's been such a pleasure to use it. You can make omelet fixings, put in mushrooms and carrot and celery and onion and some spices and maybe a couple of tiny meatballs and hit start. 15 seconds later, you have filling for a really wonderful omelet. So that has been a surprising pleasure. I like all my kitchen gadgets, but the latest one, it's very inexpensive. And Howland Beach is a pretty good reputation, has a pretty good reputation. The third item I've made videos about is the Intex 3-man inflatable boat you can get for about $30. Now, that costs more than $20, which was the price limit that Mr. Schmidt was using on his items, but you could use it for several years and sell it for that amount. The cool thing about inflatable boats is you can't get any cheaper. You can get a 2-man boat. I don't recommend it. I've done it. You can get a 4-man boat, but it's not as good as a 3, believe it or not. But it costs $30. You can spend 30,000 and not have 1,000 times more enjoyment. I remember years ago I lived on a houseboat on the Miami River, and I also had a small skiff. On the weekends I'd go down the river. I remember one day, it was a fall or spring day, the weather was absolutely like diamonds in the sky. It was just beautiful. Everything was fantastic. And as I went down the river, there were no boats gone. Every boat was in the slip. Every marina, every place docked, boats everywhere. Nobody was out that day. And I thought to myself, people are crazy. They spend fortunes on boats. They never use them. When I lived on the bay for 17 years, one year I went out in my little sailboat more times than everybody else combined in a year. What I'm getting at, the smaller the boat is, the better. The smaller it is, the more likely you own it instead of the boat owning you. And if you have a boat that only costs $30, because the thing about that, if you end up using that $30 boat a lot, then you have confidence of buying a more expensive, more uh, better boat. But if you have a $30 boat and you still don't use it, you just save yourself thousands of dollars, and you get to call yourself captain. But other than that, it just sits there. So yeah, inflatable boats have been. If it wasn't for all the alligators here, I'd be using it a lot more. If I lived on the bay, I'd be using it all, like every day. Um, the fourth item is my mini trampoline. I've done several videos. Some of them are some of the more popular videos I've ever done on YouTube. I've got over 1,400 videos last 17 years. And that's one of the more popular ones, the mini trampoline, because it's such a pleasant way of exercising. And because it is pleasant, it's easy for you to develop your habit muscle, which is the hardest muscle to develop is your habit muscle. And once you develop a habit, you can add other habits onto it. And it's just my go-to exercise. I use it every single day. And it was one of the least expensive trampolines. I think it cost me $39. Now it's like $69. But I could sell it for $39 right now if I wanted to. Another item that's brought me pleasure, but out of all the items, it's the one item I haven't used that much. And I'm kind of recommending it without having used it as much as I should. It's the resistance bands. You can get them for $10, and they destroy the need to go to a gym for many reasons. Not all, but many, because you don't really hurt yourself as easy with other things at the gym. And if you put it on the bottom of your door in the bathroom, every time you use the bathroom, there it is. So why aren't you using it? I have my excuses. What are yours? But it's a great item, and I think it can help just about anybody in retirement to exercise more. And one thing I've learned is that as we get older, we need to exercise and move more, not less. The next thing would be the treasure in my house. The most important thing, one of the top 5 things in the whole house, is my little MP3 player. I've downloaded over 1,200 songs and albums onto this, and I used to have it on another more expensive, more complicated MP3 player, but it broke. And when I bought the replacement, it broke. So I just bought the cheapest one I could get. Works fine, and it's less than $20, and it's one of my all-time pleasures. Just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs and albums anytime I want. It's just, I mean, you can put it on your phone, sure, but I just like having a dedicated device for music other than putting on the phone. The next item, when I got AFib, which I don't have anymore, thank God, knock on wood, I started using blood pressure cuff every day. This is made by Omovo. I'll leave a link to the brand. 10 years. They don't sell this brand anymore, but the company makes others that I think are just as good. I'll leave a link to. And this oxygen meter, which is a generic one, it's also about 10 years old. And the cool thing about them is you're able to monitor your vital signs if you have any issues and you're thinking about you need to go see the doctor or the hospital or something. You can see what's going on. And more importantly, you can start keeping track of what's going on with your health every single day and keep a logbook, like what you ate, what drugs you took, medicines you took, and so on. And you can start seeing if there's any pattern to your health and variability. Let's say you have something that you've been classified as having a certain illness. There's always variability to illness, And so when you can see different days are better than worse, and maybe there's some way you can monitor it and find ways you can tweak it to where you can start leaning toward the better days. And having instruments, devices that you can measure your health is very good and leans toward happiness in retirement by knowing what's happening with your health. That's been very inexpensive. Like I said, this one costs $39. 10 years, it's still working. So the last 10 years, it cost me $3.90 a year. That's pretty good. The next item, the video I mentioned by Schmidt, he in one of his things he mentioned was a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Live Your Life, and that's a great book. So I thought I'd mention two books that are related to, one definitely related to retirement. Dr. Valent, he wrote Aging Well. It's some of it's kind of academic, but it's accessible by anyone. And accessible by me, so by anyone. But there's a lot of really good information because he goes over countless numbers of studies that have been done on aging and what helped people have successful lives as they aged into retirement and later. And it gives insight into things, how we can do things differently in our life. One of the most important parts of the book, there was one sentence in there that said, out of everything they learned, the most important thing was to have good mental health. Then they don't talk about that the rest of the book. Just like, well, and related ways do, but it would be really good if someone wrote a book just on different ways to improve mental health in relationship to retiring and so on. Because physical health is wonderful. There's a billion videos on YouTube how to improve your diet and your exercise, but when it comes down to your mental health, if you don't have mental health, it doesn't matter how good your physical health is. So yeah, it's a great book. I recommend it to anyone who's interested about living well as they get older. I think I've got so many videos, I can't remember if I did this or not. I may have done a review on this book. It's by Scott Adams, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. And there's many different hints. I always say if you get one good idea out of a book, it was worth your time. And there's many good ideas in Scott's book. So I recommend that book a lot. Another thing I recommend that's brought me a lot of joy is my camera that you're looking at right now that is being used. It's on my old Samsung A21 phone that has a cracked screen that I got on eBay for like $39. So yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a phone or to make videos on YouTube, which has been a pleasure of my life. The last thing is very controversial. I never purchased any firearms till like about 10 years ago. And from the get-go, if you're a person who thinks you should not have a gun for whatever reason, I'm on your side and I agree with it, whatever reasons you are feeling that way about firearms. But if you think you would like to have a firearm, but do you think they're too expensive and you can't think of any other reason not to have one, and then you may be overlooking that there's a lot of firearms out there that cost very little. This is a Rossi 22 carbine. You can get these for a little over $100. And like I said, you could keep it for 10 years and you can get your money back. Easy. And there are many firearms you could buy that would be not nearly as good as that one and spend a lot more. I'm not going to go over all the reasons why I think I should have one. All I know is after I purchased one about 10 years ago, I was puzzled why I had never purchased one before. Guns to me are like parachutes. I don't like parachutes. I don't want to use a parachute, but if I ever have to jump out of a plane and need a parachute, I'm really happy I have one. So on that note, those are 10 relatively inexpensive items. Like I said, some of the things like the bicycle, it cost me $149. 10 years ago, I can sell it now on Amazon or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for $125. So I lost $25 in 10 years. But the pleasure I've gotten from it has been very significant. I have 4 bicycles in my house now, 2 electric. I didn't go over electric bicycles because they're relatively expensive. They're not as cheap as things I mentioned. So hope those were inexpensive items you might think about for making your retirement life or non-retirement life happier. And I put on new videos every week. Been doing it for over close to 17 years now. Got over 1,400 videos. And it's a variety channel. You never know what you're going to find because I never know what I'm going to be interested in and put on. So don't forget to go check out Mr. Schmidt's channel, Holy Schmidt. And y'all come back. Take care. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Really do. Really appreciate it.